Oh, guys, good, you're here. I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why, did you finally listen to it?
Da-da-da-da, 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 the Groomer Next Door production. You're listening to BYOTP Radio. Coming up next, the Groomer Next Door. Groomer Next Door Podcast.
Dun, 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 dun.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm everybody's friend.
Hello, pups and kittens, and welcome to an all-new year of the Groomer Next Door Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Green, and joining us for our one-time-a-year event, Sarah is coming back on the podcast.
Hello. I didn't know if that was my turn to say hello, because...
It's been a while, right?
Right.
Well, like I said, this is our review of 2017, which was a great year. We've had a lot of positives happen through the podcast, through opening up our own shop, and we'll get into all of that in just a minute. But let's go into our fact of the week. Dogs don't like rain because the sound is amplified and hurts their very sensitive ears. Now, you know what? It makes some sense because when you think about it from the grooming salon, every time it's raining or thunder, what are dogs usually?
True.
They're usually scared. So that becomes a real issue. So I thought, oh wow, that makes a lot of sense. And as you can tell, because it is kind of noisy, we are recording where we did our very first episode ever, in the very same spot, same table, same area, and I thought that was the perfect fit for doing this episode because you don't come on anymore. So,
can you explain why?
You really don't like doing this. Isn't that probably the best option?
No.
Okay, tell us, why?
Being busy with the shop, always tired, and always mentally exhausting. It's very difficult to do this.
Well, tell us about opening up the shop. How did that all come about, and how is everything going right now? Now that we're 6 months into it? 7 months into it? Yeah.
Yeah, almost a year into preparation of the shop, too. Well, I thought we covered this.
Well, we could just do a brief rundown while I get ready for what's going on.
Well, it was pretty awesome. I've groomed this one dog for a couple years, and I got real close to the customer, and she saw how miserable I was at the other salon that I was working at, not being treated properly. Other questionable practices were going on, and we just were not happy anymore. She looks at me and she goes, "You get your numbers together and come see me." So it took me about 3 or 4 days to get all of our numbers together. I went back, I want to say about 4 or 5 years, 4 years of record keeping on how many dogs we groomed, how much we would charge, and how much profit and loss and such. Well, she found it a good investment and invested in us.
I liked how we found a place. It didn't work out.
Yeah, the first place that we found it was huge. It was amazing place.
It would have been great now.
Multiple groomers, to have like 5 or 6 groomers in there. That would have been wonderful. 2 tubs, probably about 30 kennels. It was gonna rock.
If we could have had an actual store inside, a holistic store, it would have been great.
But unfortunately, and we have learned that finding people is very hard. And finding people to go on an hourly wage is hard. Apparently, a lot of groomers still want to be a 50 or 60% commission groomer, which they are 1099 at the end of the year. That means they pay their own taxes. Well, unfortunately, it is a very difficult way to go through a 1099 legally. So more and more groomers now are going to be paid hourly. And everything goes underneath the business. The business gets expenses for all this different stuff, pays for them, yada, yada, yada. So it's hard to find a groomer that is willing to go on an hourly rate. They want to be able to bust through dogs and just collect the money and go. And then I realized that our standards are so high, it's getting to the point where people cannot reach that level of standard.
They do okay at the beginning.
Yeah, at the bathing it's a little easier to get to our standard, but at the same time...
What is that, 27 steps? It was a 27-step bathing system is what I think we came to. No,
it was a 17 bathing system, 21 drying.
Okay, sorry.
Steps to go through.
So 38.
So, great. Washing and blow drying dogs isn't sticking the dog in the tub, get it wet, use soap, rinse it, and then blow dry.
Right.
No, there is much more.
And that's not even talking about handling and care.
Yeah, that's not how to not get bit. That's just how to wash. So, but now that we're open and we're going, we're busy. My phone's ringing off the hook all the time. I posted on Facebook that we were going to be closed for 4 days for the holiday, and we're still getting people calling.
Yeah.
Messaging, Facebook message, any way they can to get a hold of us.
It is a 7-day job. I mean, where you have people sending emails, you have people sending messages through Facebook.
And I know most of them were pretty much just get back to me when you can.
Right.
But we find it very important to us to respond to them quickly. If you don't respond quick enough, they go somewhere else. And we are coming up with the new PetSmart that's going to be opening. They can house probably upwards to about 6 groomers, 6 full-time groomers, and probably about 3 or 4 full-time bathers. And here we are, just you and I. What was great is that we actually we weren't able to get that first place we looked at.
Which was helpful.
That was expensive utilities, and the rent was higher. We found this little shop that houses up kind of snugly. It's small. It's less than 1,000.
It's intimate.
Yeah, it's less than 1,000 square feet. We could utilize space a little bit differently and probably get us a lot more room. But we have an open layout.
Open concept.
And dogs can play in that open area. I can use that room for whatever we wanted, but it's for the dogs to play. And that's one thing that will separate us from the new PetSmart that's opening, is that when you bring the dog into the grooming salon, no dogs are allowed to come within nose touch of each other.
Right.
Our dogs aren't allowed to go nose touch either. But when the dogs are in the kennel, there's a big enough area out front where they can run and they can play. They don't have to be, they can cuddle if they want, if that's all they want to. Cuddle. And yet you can still wash a dog and blow dry a dog while that other one is running and playing without them touching noses. At PetSmart, they don't have that.
Well, a lot of places don't have that.
No, they don't.
Our other place that we were working, they didn't have that either.
No, they didn't. Well, I mean, we could have closed the door and let them run in the little tiny area, but the likelihood of tripping and falling over them was a lot higher because the groom room was smaller than a bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
I mean, I want to say it was about 5 feet wide and probably about 10 to 12 feet long. So it wasn't very much room for us to groom. But here it's bigger. So we're trying to find ways of separating ourselves from PetSmart.
Well, we're trying to separate ourselves from any grooming salon out there. And that's been our biggest task, is how do we do it? And by doing so is just open concept, more holistic. Really
and educating ourselves.
And educating the people who come in, because we do get that a lot.
Yeah. With you going through your journey of your podcast and bringing up more information, you're arming yourself for any possible questions that a customer can pop up. If
the soapbox.
Well, it's as simple as if a customer were to walk into PetSmart, talk to a sales associate, and say, what are the benefits to dry dog food versus raw food?
Right.
They're like, oh my gosh, raw, that's awful, it's got salmonella, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're going to go salmonella.
They're going to get sick.
What if they actually ask about plant-based? They're going to have no idea.
Yeah, they're not going to understand the plant-based diet. So here we are, we don't have any food in our place to sell. But you come to us, we'll give you the information straight to you.
Right.
Now, that is, we don't sell food there, so we're not trying to pinpoint you to any one direction.
We're not trying to pimp out food.
why don't you try this $90 bag of dry kibble? It's wonderful.
Yeah.
No, and we do have sources that we will send our folks to if they want to go raw and they don't want to touch it.
Right.
Because we did come across a few.
Well,
so they were like, hey, you got Fetching Foods. Go ahead and take care of that.
We have nice brochures out, thanks to Troy. We have business cards.
Right, and so everything that they can take home and they can read up on it themselves. And then, we don't get a profit from it.
Nope.
So it is just absolute unbiased.
Right.
And here you go.
And what's great about it is that we're able to connect. Go ahead.
I'll tell you, dealing with the meat yourself and putting it all together yourself is a pain.
It can be.
It is a pain.
The shopping is the pain.
Yes. So if you want to save yourself a lot of trouble and not have to do this stuff, I definitely suggest taking a look at Fetching Foods website and see how much easier it is just to get it in a nice, beautiful box, ready to go.
Right.
Just saying.
Well, let's go into who had been on in 2017. All right? Well, our very first guest, which was episode 160, we kicked off the year with Kohl Harrington, who made Pet Fooled. That was an interesting, very interesting conversation that led to a lot. That was the real beginning of last year for really kind of looking at nutrition.
It was a nice enter into the ground floor of going into raw food.
Right.
I didn't find it overpowering on the information, like too much at once.
Right.
It was enough to trigger me to go, I want to know more.
Right.
I'm not scared of it. I would like to just know more and see, could this be a fit for our family?
And the thing about the whole Pet Fooled thing is still my favorite digital movie I have in my collection, and Sarah knows I love looking through our digital collection, but it's still my favorite one that I have in there because it means so much to me. I mean, even in our shop, there is a big poster up in the shop from the Pet Fooled poster that I got from Kohl, and to this day I still hold on to that. That is kind of like the beacon of where we go. It's like this is what our standard is, and let's elevate above it. So I had to always say that was a great kickoff. And that's another thing about doing the podcast is who's going to be the quarterback, the first episode of the year. Who's our first guest of the year, which we've obviously got that done for this year. And it's just always kind of interesting. Now, our next one, which I thought was later in the season of the year, season, however you want to look at this, but PetChatz. I thought we did that a lot sooner than it actually came up. That was 161. Or 162, I'm sorry. And I was like, I remember going through the PetChatz. It felt like it was not that long ago. And such a good concept to be able to talk to your dog from wherever you are through any kind of device. I thought that was pretty cool. And something that I really enjoyed. And, it's funny because we don't carry any... Well, I'm trying to think if we have any of these products. I don't think we have any of these products in our shop. No, because we really don't have anything right now. But I thought that was really cool. Episode 163, which was Missouri Alliance for Animal Legislation. And again, I thought this came in a lot later. It felt like it was summer that we were doing this interview. That was a great one to be able to talk to somebody who was part of legislation. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being able to go through that process and really kind of understand, especially in this state. You see it as much as I do, Sarah, with how this state does differ from anything on the East Coast and West Coast in adapting to the new changes. We see it at the actual shelter. We see it with people. We see it when we actually do rescues, that the mentality is still multiple decades behind, and that always shocks me, to think that we're still looking at dogs and cats as property. So that was kind of a interesting one. And then it was funny because I remember working the next episode. It was when Claire was doing basketball early in the year. I'm working out different things as we're at practice and talking to different people as I do. And VetCBD was the next one, which was episode 164. And I thought to myself, I don't know anything about marijuana and hemp and everything like that. And I remember going to one of my friends who's a police officer and asking him questions. And I'm like, I have no idea. And even you were laughing at me because you're like, you don't know anything about this.
You didn't party.
I didn't party, no. So I have no idea, and I'm still very ignorant when it comes to, you know, medicinal marijuana, hemp, and cannabis for, you know, the medical side, even though I'm very much for it, and I love the science that goes with it.
Yeah, Glenda has I want to say a 13-year-old lab that she gives the cannabis to, and you can tell when she needs it because the dog will start walking and barely walk.
Right.
So then she goes ahead and gives her the pill, and an hour later she's up walking, like, still slowly, but not like she's in pain a few minutes before.
Well, that's the benefits to actually looking at the science. And that is why in an upcoming episode you'll hear Chelsea Kent come on, and she's going to be talking about that. And you know, it's kind of funny because when you do the research, it's right there. It shows all of the benefits and will extend our dogs and cats' lives without the unfortunate or fortunate, depends on who you want to talk to, side effects of being high. It's not about getting high. It's actually an herbal supplement that does work. So I found that was one of my harder ones to actually prepare for because I didn't know anything about the content. So studying was definitely hard for me. The next one was an interesting one. I remember getting this one worked out, and it was because it's a local senator right here in our town, and he's also a veterinarian. So it was really interesting to be able to talk to him from the two perspectives of being able to talk to somebody that actually was legislating and had that side of him that loved animals, and that was Senator Dan Brown. And I remember doing the interview outside of the Ozark Actors Theater because I had to go inside and we were going to pick up something from one of the directors for one of the cats. I think it was some food or money for spay and neuter. So I'm doing the interview outside of the theater and then go inside because of one of our fosters, which I do want to talk about fostering, and you know, when we're done going through our list. The next one, which I still think is a great concept, because a lot of people do get caught up in this, the unfortunates. And it was 166, and we went on with the Kansas City Better Business Bureau. And I thought that was a really good concept because people are unfortunately victimized from backyard breeders, Craigslist, different websites that promise the world, and then it falls apart. Now we've talked about backyard breeders, you and I, how all that works out, and being that it's Missouri and you see it through Kohl and everything else, we see a lot of shady things that are going on, especially with Facebook. How many times have you seen people go on there and say puppies for sale, and they're under the actual amount of time, and
or they use the color of the dog like it's supposed to be part of the breed. You know, I got blue nose pit, I got red nose pit. Like, folks, there is no such thing in the AKC or the UKC as blue nose and red nose. It is the color of the dog. Either the dog is blue or the dog is red, or the dog is brindle with a pink nose, or, you know, come on.
But it sounds really pretty when they actually say it with all these different...
Purebred, blue nose, pit bull crud. Most people don't even know what a pit bull is. They end up being like a 90-pound dog.
Well, I always like how people always like to associate, you know, pit bulls with being violent, because that's the stereotype. Just like another in...
Oh yeah, because you go down to any kind of, you know, gangster place, they got their big bad pit bull with their ears cropped and their big huge muscles sticking out, guarding a fence because their local drug deal is going to go down wrong.
Go down wrong.
So, just saying, that's where the stereotype comes from, and it's sad.
The next one I still to this day find to be one of the more interesting products out there. And I really enjoyed talking with them. But episode 167 had Pet ID. They're the driver's license tags, mypetdmv.com. I still love that to this day.
That was pretty adorable.
I still love it. I still think it's one of the most amazing products out there. And you know, you think to yourself that a driver's license that's going to be attached is going to be this ginormous, you know, thing, like what's in your wallet. But it's actually really nice and small and compact. And I just thought that they were still one of my more favorite products that are out there on the market. And what's nice is that it gives you a keepsake as well. That was one of the things I took away from it is, okay, you know, I get something that I will be able to treasure forever, and my dog has a great identification, and I thought that was a lot of fun and a great deal for me, and for that I was just very happy to be able to talk to him. Now the next one is episode 168. Now this one actually was one of my most favorite episodes of the year. I would actually go with, it's right there at the top. There's a couple of them that were my favorites, but these two ladies have become just absolutely my favorite people out there. Jay and Adrian are both out of Las Vegas, and they are the two crazy cat ladies. Anytime that they're on Facebook and they're doing a Facebook Live, I'm watching it and I chime in.
Going down the market in different aisles, and you know, Chris, you know, of course he's not going to keep it down, so he turns up the volume. He's very proud of it. And they're talking about raw food, and people are staring at us like, what's going on?
Yeah, they're blasting on my phone, and now, you know, you guys all hear me talk about it all the time because, you know, that's what I do, but I'm always talking about how I love to go down the pet food aisle in any kind of big box store. And now that you actually get to hear Sarah here, you'll actually hear right from her how much I actually embarrass her.
It's awful.
It is awesome.
It is awful. It is just absolutely awful. Now, we don't go down the dog food aisle very often. Okay, let's just put that out there. Sometimes the pet food pantry needs it. Sometimes our foster needs it. Because as much as I want to feed our foster cats or our foster dogs raw and get them put onto a raw diet, there is a 90% chance they're going to go to a new home where they're going to where they're going to go to a new home with kibble.
Right.
So we have to keep it on them, or keep them with the dry.
Unless it was a contract that Kohl would come up with, and I doubt that would happen.
That would just be way too hard to get any animals adopted at that point. Because remember, we're still in the Midwest. Yay! So we go down the aisle, and you're like, does antibiotics come with each bag? I'm like, stop it!
That's usually the cat aisle.
Stop it now! Shut up! Or I race through this.
She does race. She runs down that aisle as quick as she can, and
oh look, they put corn on the bag, like they're proud of it.
Hey look, this bag came with amoxicillin.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, it's so funny. Or I will be listening to them as the two crazy cat ladies are live, and I'll just stand there in the middle of the cat food aisle. And I remember one time there was this great story where this lady was looking at different cat food, and they're on and of course they're attached to the basket, phone's blasting, and this woman is comparing these brands, and she's got a bag of, I want to say like $40 bag of garbage dry cat food. And I laughed, and I'm like, well, she's like, this is the only stuff that my cat will not throw up. And I said, it's no better than if you bought the $10 bag. She goes, oh no, it's so much better. I grabbed a bag of cheap cat food, flipped it over to the ingredients, flipped the one that she had, and showed her that nothing was different except for the price tag. And of course Sarah was gone by that point, but it was,
I'm out.
I am out of here. Yeah, that was great. So to this day, I mean, I still love being able to talk to Jay all the time. Jay has been one of my biggest inspirations when it comes to cats. She's the knowledgeable one.
Well, and it's like, okay, well, we got a problem. Okay, Google is telling me 4 different things, so let's make sure that Jay and Adrian would concur on at least one of the 4. and then we go through that way. One of our fosters had a urinary tract infection, a UTI, and yep, it's the kibble. What can we do?
Well, it's hard because especially with fostering and rescuing, you don't know what these cats have been ingesting from that point. You don't know what their original house was feeding them. You can pretty much always guess it's a dry kibble. You just have to decide, is it the worst of the dry kibble or is it the better of the dry kibble? But a polished turd is still a polished turd. And that's always fun. So whenever I have any questions, I contact Jay and Adrian, and I just, again, they are... I would go down and say they were my favorites of 2017. There's a couple that hit the number one for me.
They were a lot of fun to listen to.
I enjoyed it. It was, and again, I always say I'm the very first listener to every podcast, and I enjoyed just our little conversation as it was. Didn't expect it to go like that either. The next one was impacting to me because it's something that I actually believe in. Ever since we started rescuing animals, it became imperative that, oh my God, these commercial farms are absolutely horrendous and brutal, and I just couldn't handle it anymore. It was great because Mercy for Animals came on episode 169, and I really appreciated being able to talk to them. I've never been able to go full vegan, and it's just something that I don't know if I'm ever going to make it. As I'm working on our plant-based episode or series that we're working on, we're still talking about different things, and vegan, of course, has come into it as for a human, because humans are vegans, animals are plant-based, and it's kind of one of those things that I don't think I can give up my milk, even a scientifically modified.
I believe humans were meant to consume animals. Now, how they're raised before, that is a big concern to me. I know I will never go vegan. I'm not even going to try to go.
I'm not going to try.
I'm not even try to go vegetarian. But to be more aware of the situation, make better choices, that is what I'll hone in on.
And it's one of those things. I mean, we really don't eat. We have no red meat ever.
No, we don't ever. Well, we have a burger every now and then, but that is a little patty.
And it's still. I like going to Taco Bell because I always get everything that I have that would have beef has bean instead, and it works great for me.
And we're more chicken people.
Yep.
And it's just poultry is healthier for you, anyways.
And it's funny. I had this conversation with somebody about poultry, and we were talking about just the commercial farming and how that worked. I'm like, I don't want to know. Don't ruin it. So that was rough. The next one was actually going to be a series. It was going to be one of our series that was very hard to actually work out. Episode 171 was supposed to kick it off, and it was going to be a month of looking to our neighbors to the north and do a full Canadian area. Unfortunately, it was absolutely impossible to get anybody to be willing to come on. But it was cool because we did get a police officer who was from Edmonton Police Services. And I thought that was really cool to be able to have another police officer who had a canine partner and be able to go through all that. That was, if anything, if I had to take anything out of that entire experience, it was the fact that I really appreciated being able to speak to somebody who was in law enforcement, because we all know I back the blue, and I was really interested to be able to find out what they go through, and especially during the cold seasons, it really is kind of difficult. I mean, to have a canine partner, how do you guys do it? And, the heater is on in the car a lot. So, that's kind of it. So that was a very interesting one for me. We move on to Canine Cuisine, which, again, I'm always very much interested in talking with different companies that ship out pre-made raw meals for the pet parents out there who have such an issue with time. And I'm the first one to understand that. One of the things that I always say is, if we actually just stay with the dry kibble and say, well, that's the best we're going to do, can't do any better, I have no time for it, then we're actually letting our pets down. I'm not going to feed Claire, who is right over here. I'm not going to feed her, fast food every day. So why would I do that to my favorite dog and cats that are at home? So Canine Cuisine came on, and it was great because they had a lot of different information, and that really helped out. And it opens up those floodgates of, hey, there are options out there. Now, 173 was a very challenging episode. Not because the guest was difficult, because the guest was absolutely a doll, but because our guest was such a massive name. Dr. Barbara Royal came on, and the research was definitely needed to do so. And I remember when we were getting ready for it, you were saying to me, don't bring up that she's Oprah's veterinarian. And I was going to. Originally, I was going to ask the question because...
I was like, don't be cheeky.
And, I like the fact that you brought that up, because a lot of times I bounce my ideas off of Sarah, who doesn't want to hear me most of the time.
What?
Yeah, exactly. So I bounce off my ideas off of her, and she's like, I would completely avoid that. Now, Dr. Royal does bring it up in conversation, but I felt,
more of a gradual passing conversation.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, by the way.
Right.
It wasn't her tooting her own horn.
And it was really cool to be able to talk to her. I loved her involvement in Pet Fooled. I thought that she was amazing, and she's just one of those people that was very easy to talk to. And I did not expect us to go as long as we did. We recorded for a long time, and I didn't expect to have that amount of time with her, but we went, and it was a great experience. Now, episode 174 is absolutely, the catalyst. It's on there as one of the good companies to go through. If you're looking for the big companies and you want to, you want that safety net under you, a lot of people believe in them. And I'm not against them at all. I'm definitely supportive. I like to support more of the smaller companies, but I also want to promote big companies because they've established themselves in some way. And that was when Darwin's, the actual Korean owner of Darwin's, came on. And I felt like it was a good opportunity because, again, here you have prepared meals that Dr. Royal and Dr. Becker had worked out through Darwin's, their prescription blend. So if you needed to go to the high company, you can go there. And they supported all of that. And again, I'm very much interested in people finding information and going through instead of just saying, well, there's nothing I can do better. Anything you had on Darwin's, Mel?
I was listening to it while I was painting the shop.
The rare time that you listen to me do it. That's another thing, folks.
I know exactly what I was doing. We pulled the carpet up so I can paint the baseboards brown, and I was sitting there painting. And during the time of opening the shop, I went in before work, after work, for weeks, and I put that episode on. I put it up loud on my phone. Put it plugged in somewhere, and I kept painting and painting and I got one wall of the baseboards done during that time.
Yeah, it was kind of funny how that was another. It's always funny how long our episodes can be because we dive into conversations and they never really end. I always think it's kind of funny. Coming back on 175 was a good friend of ours, Stacey Bone, who's just right out in St. Louis. He came up with the great company PawFriction, and he came back on the podcast, and we opened up questions to all of you. And a lot of you had some great questions, and we asked him while we did the episode, and it was a lot of fun having him back on the podcast, which since then, we've actually, he's been married, and he's got a lot going on, so at some point we want to actually get him back on.
When the man's schedule calms down.
Right. Now, 176, John Redshaw, right here from the Rolla Animal Shelter, returned. I can honestly say I thought that was earlier in the year, A lot of things, go on, and we always talk about how we need to talk about the hot issues that are going on.
And John's just so easy to talk to as well.
Well, yeah. Well,
he's just this bubble of knowledge.
And, he started out the whole let's go and do interviews. He was the very first interview we ever had. Or wait.
Jesse Queen, I thought, was our first.
No, it was John. John was our very first. Because again,
Alrighty.
The format changed so much in the first beginning times that I think he's got like 4 appearances.
I'll just go back painting the salon.
I'll go back painting the salon. Good job. The next one was really funny. Episode 177 was because of Claire. She was the one she made this one happen. Every night, and I didn't actually know this happened. I didn't know Wheel of Fortune had a break in time. There's like their season ends, and then there's like no new episodes for so many months. I didn't know that, but we were sitting down having dinner one night, and we're watching Wheel of Fortune. And at the end of the show, they talked about a previous guest that had been on. And the lady had won some money, and she opened up her own ranch called the Wheel of Fortune Ranch. Well, Claire looks at me and says, "You got to have her on the podcast."
That was funny.
It was funny. And honestly, I did not expect that to happen at all. I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. Which was great is that she came on the podcast, and it was a great conversation. She was a sweetheart, and honestly, one of those heartwarming moments for last year that I really enjoyed a lot. Going up to 178, we actually went and talked to somebody with Paws with a Cause. Now, I didn't know what to expect with Paws with a Cause, and I wanted to actually, go into a company that, provided service dogs. But I didn't realize they had these dogs go into prisons, and they worked that out, and how much went into it.
That was pretty cool.
That one threw me off.
Yeah, that was mind-blowing.
And so I was like, really? So I learned a lot, and as we were doing the recording, I didn't know most of this stuff was going on. I saw part of it, I'd done research, but I was like, really? So I was as surprised recording it as you might have been listening to it. So I thought that was really interesting. Episode 179. 179 was with a delightful lady who, at the end, we started talking about other things that we didn't record. So we're definitely going to get together and sit down and record again. But Tazz Latifi, who's got Petropolis out in New York City, she was on. And subsequently, and I think it's okay that I actually reveal this because I'm pretty sure it's already out there, Petfool 2 was filmed, some of it, and she is in that movie, in Petfool 2. They filmed, I want to say like a couple weeks after we did this episode. I think it was like maybe a couple weeks, maybe a month or so afterwards. Kohl went out there, filmed with her. I think they filmed for a few days. And it was just an interesting concept. I don't know much about it. I haven't really had a lot of time to talk to her, but
she be busy.
She's very busy and has a great deal of East Coast connection, and just an interesting woman, and really fit into this circle that has formed within this podcast, which I absolutely love. Now, episode 180. And again, in episode 200, so I don't have to go backwards, we had an amazing lady who is literally the pioneer and the person that's behind majority of the success of anybody who is in this industry, and that is Susan Thixton. Truth about pet food, she's the inspiration for a lot of veterinarians out there. She's the inspiration for a lot of people who are actually out there as pioneers. And absolute honor to be able to talk to her. I told her when I had her on episode 200, I did reveal to her that I was scared to death talking to her. Absolutely petrified. And what's funny is that I recorded that first episode literally right after opening up the shop. We had just been open. I had no idea of our scheduling and how anything was going to work. We had everything in our life was changing because we were no longer in our original spot, so everything was different. it was so chaotic, and I was petrified to talk to her because she's just a pioneer, an icon. I mean, this is a woman that has Barbara Becker, Rodney Habib, Dr. Royal. I mean, all these people on just speed dial, and they contact her for information. So to be talking to me, I was just like, oh my gosh, you know. And when I actually saw that she was no longer part of AFCO for the Consumer's Advocate, right away I sent her an email, not expecting to actually get a response back. And when she responded back almost immediately, knowing who I was, I looked over at Sarah and went, she actually knows who I am. I mean, honestly, I can honestly say that was an honor and a privilege right there in itself. And what was that like when I said, she actually responded back to me, you kind of looked at me and go, huh, guess you're making a difference. Nothing? Nothing? Yeah? Okay. Next one was 181. Brandon Zavala, Apollo Peak Pet Beverage. He returned and told us all about his adventure on Shark Tank. Now, you remember when we did Shark Tank? No, when we did the whole Apollo Peak originally. Now, you remember the story really vivid. We never really talked about when...
I think we did.
Did we? Okay. I mean, it was a quick thing. We were driving over to Walmart late one night, needed something for some reason or another, and we were listening to the radio, and this DJ was a real D-bag, kind of making fun of Apollo Peak. And right away, Sarah looks over at me, and again...
No, it was the dude who comes up with random facts.
But he was a real jerk about it.
Well, he was about everything. That's just his nature. So I don't think it's him being a jerk. I think it was just his temper.
He poo-poos on everything. Yeah, he does. So go ahead.
I don't think it was supposed to be taken personally.
I thought I took it personally.
Of course you would.
Well, of course. That's what I do. But it was funny because very rare, Sarah will go, you need to get this person on the podcast. And I'm going to be honest, though. When she does tell me you need to get them on the podcast, they always turn out to be amazing and become friends.
That's me.
That's me.
I'm a matchmaker.
So it was really cool to go back and be able to find out.
Just proof that people need to listen to me more.
Oh, sure. Now, the next one was 182, and I'm going to tell you, this one I felt out of my element so many times because Daniel Orrego, who is part of Keto Pet, is one of the most knowledgeable men you're ever going to talk to. He is like talking to a doctor and a veterinarian blended together with a scientist, and it was just amazing to be able to talk to this guy. And again, somebody who I will be, reaching out to in the 2018 season to actually have back on the podcast because he's just one of the most amazing people. I said amazing a couple of times, but I was so blown away by this guy's knowledge. And it was funny because afterwards we continued talking through text, and he would send me these links to different videos that were there were videos of different speeches that were going on in different universities about cancer research in pets. And it was, I would sit there and watch him the moment he would send them. It wasn't like I didn't listen to any of them. I listened to them all, I watched them all, and I was blown away. And I thought to myself, here I just talked to somebody who is probably more knowledgeable than the people that were on that stage, and they were all, they were DVMs, and yet still I thought he was still smarter than them. Which is funny because Krista Powell, she'll be on at some point, and her husband both know Daniel, and her husband and Krista's husband is really smart. And it's so funny because she says, I'll be in the room with them, and they will be talking, and I just completely lose myself in their conversation. So that'll be interesting to get into that conversation. Episode 183. Now, this one you can actually really weigh in on, Sarah, and that is, it was Dr. Harvey's.
Yep. Talked
to his wife. His wife was so sweet. His wife sent over a big care package, and we were blown away by it. We definitely...
So were the dogs.
They were. We were what we did was we gave all the treats out to the dogs at the shop, and everything is so holistic and well made, and just a great product in itself. One of those products out there that, again, it will take a little bit of your time to make some of the different things, but it is absolutely wonderful and high quality, and something that I still to this day am holding on to as they're on my list of top products out there.
Yeah, the dogs really, really loved the dehydrated sweet potatoes. Katana just went bonkers for that, and our larger dogs at this salon did too. And people were like, "Wow, my dog doesn't normally take treats. What is this?"
Right.
And I showed it to him, and then the freeze-dried chicken, that was a huge hit. And the coconut smiles.
Oh yeah.
Those are we still have some of those, but some dogs are kind of picky. Whether or not they'll take it, I think it's a texture thing. We had some, it wasn't awful. Everything that they have is human grade.
Right. Which is very important to us.
So we tried it all except for the sweet potato. Who wants dehydrated sweet potato?
We did know somebody who did try it though. Trouble's owner.
Amy?
I don't know. I don't know her by her name. Trouble. Anyway. But yeah, it was a great product. It was a great food. Yeah, she put one in her mouth because she's like
Amy
us.
Quinn?
No, not Amy Quinn. Trouble, the owner, dog.
Oh, Brenda.
That's the one.
I'm like, I thought you were calling Amy Trouble. I'm like, well, yeah, she's troubled, but still.
I would have said Amy Quinn.
Okay.
I would have said that.
Sorry.
All right, our next one, and you know, cat episodes are never what I'd call the high ticket, which drives me nuts because I think that cats are just as valuable as dogs in so many ways. I mean, I look at Oliver and I think to myself, of all the cats, of Oliver and Callie, Mama Kitty, you know, she's a cat. She's very much a cat. But Oliver and Callie are such a standout of cats. And I think to myself, at times they could be even more of an affectionate love than even Katana, which, you know, that says a lot. But I thought, you know, what a cool concept this is, and that was Neon Litter. And they came on, and
that was a cool concept.
I still think it's a great concept, and something that really gets under my skin a little bit is the fact that people don't look at that and go, "This is amazing." You know, it's in some sense you see it still on there that it's a novelty item, and I think to myself, no, it's absolutely not. It's a great base product. It's not something that's, you know, nasty and gross, and it's a really good product. And you know, it's really cool because he ran a promotion through our podcast, and people got to I think it was they shared the post, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember the whole logistics, but they shared the post, and there was a couple people who won quite a few pounds of it. And I thought that was really cool, and just absolutely amazing that he would you know, do that through the podcast. So that was cool. I never did find out who won it, but I'm sure somebody, you know, was very fortunate to get this and had a really colorful cat litter, and so that was really cool. The next one was something that I was really interested in. Again, the podcast does not have any barriers, which is quite nice. I mean, here we're doing a review episode. We can have people on that have something to do with pets or nothing at all, but you know, there's no restriction, which I love. I'm sure if I had a producer or somebody who told me I can't do things, it would be different, but I am that person. So this episode 185 was M.K. Clinton, and she's written a couple books, The Barking in the Bayou, and they're just the most adorable books. And I love the fact that she wrote them in honor of her own dogs, and the characters are from her own dogs, so they live on.
That was adorable.
I thought it was great, and the fact that she's able to still have conversations creatively with them, and I understand that. I completely understand that. Is just amazing and wonderful, and I just think that that's the greatest. And she was so sweet. She sent a couple copies over to us for Claire, and I absolutely appreciate it. And I cherish those books. Those are put away nice and neat, and I really enjoyed our conversation. And she has a great blog, and just a lot of fun. Moving on to 186, we had Primal Pet Foods on. And again, you know, it's something where I know a lot of you want to reach out to the bigger companies, and I hear it all the time. You want the big names because you feel like
of course they got their act together, right?
Well, that's kind of the thought process. Even though, if you look, they still all have recalls. They do their recalls themselves, and you know, some of them are based on just size, and they wanted to make sure that the dimensions were off by a smidge, or there's just something that's wrong. And I appreciate that. And I loved how Primal had just amazing products. And I love the fact to be able to sit down and talk to them, because it really opened up my mind in many ways. And always changes. And actually one of our customers orders from them. Yeah. You know, we try to, we give people the opportunity, hey, this is what we've done, this is who we've talked to. And it's funny because that's, you know, another thing is whenever there's a consultation at work, when people come in and they go, my dog has dandruff, because that's the common thing that you'll hear. And it's never, well, listen to this episode of the podcast. The podcast does not really live in our shop. It's kind of funny. The shop's named after the podcast, but they're two separate entities. I always think that's weird. You got yours, I got mine, kind of thing. Yeah. You can say anything, anytime. Nope. You're doing well on your own. Well, that's because I'm a podcaster. Well, our next one was episode 187, and this person became an instant friend. Somebody that I reach out to whenever I have any kind of raw questions. You know, it's funny, we just had a conversation the other day. I was looking at sardines, and I was hoping that she would say something to twist my brain a little bit and kind of, you know, give me some kind of reason why I could allow, I think it was 45% sodium into my dog's diet, even though I was looking for any kind of positives, like, yeah, you could do it for this. But she's like, no, it's 5 or 10% sodium, and would you really, even if you cut down into half, would you be okay with 20? And it's like, darn. But Kimberly Gauthier, who is literally the best, and again, you've all heard me say I hate the word dog bloggers or pet bloggers or blogger entire. I think it's such a derogatory, but that is the term. She is just an amazing woman who, you know, subsequently is a very big supporter of Darwin's. And, you know, we have conversations about that as well. I enjoy watching her making her dog's meals. Interactions, I can honestly say our interactions are interesting and pet related, and I just enjoy them. But she is my go-to when it comes to raw feed, and I have to go to her all the time. It was just funny because in the store just the other day, I got to ask Kimberly a question. Can we feed our dog oysters? Yeah. Yes, yes you can. No, it was the sardines with the sodium content. That's what it was. That's what it was. It was anchovies. Sodium. Anchovies, that's right. Anchovies, you're right. Our next one is Dr. Judy Morgan. She was really the inspiration to want to go to Dream Vision 7 and join that network, which that's the one thing that we're still working out, trying to get that whole thing finalized and how to get us into the Boston-based radio station. And speaking with her, she is very knowledgeable, does a show through them, and is absolutely a peach. I love watching her YouTube stuff, her Facebook Live stuff, because she's great at it. I mean, I will still say Dr. Koger is still my favorite. No offense, Dr. Morgan, but I still like my Dr. Koger. And, but that's just me. No, you know, we're all to each our own, but you're still great at what you do. After that, we go to 189, which was Pet Mio. Pet Mio, again, you know, it's kind of funny when we set that up. It was something that we weren't expecting the hurricane to take on what it did in the tropical storm in Florida. It was kind of one of those unexpected. We were kind of going, well, can we actually do this interview? Because they barely had any kind of utilities. Their cell phone towers were still kind of messed up. And some way, somehow, we were able to get together and do that episode, which was quite interesting. And during the time, it was funny because he's talking about how there's one of these helicopters that were going to be flying by and it was going to be loud. And I don't think that we actually picked up the sound. But, you know, even at that point, there was still rescue efforts and all kinds of different cleanups that were going on, and explained the story of how things were going on during that point in time in their development. After that, we go to 190, and it seems like some of these felt like they were in the beginning of the year, and some of them feel like they were at the end of the year. I don't know. But the next one was Long Living Pets Research Project. And I feel like I haven't talked to him in forever. And he was so interesting. He's got this 30-year program where he's, you know, feeding raw and showing research. And it was absolutely amazing. We had a pre-interview beforehand. We start talking. We talked for, I want to say, like an hour and a half. And he was nothing I expected. I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, but I didn't expect somebody like him, knowledgeable and scientific, but really, really fun to talk to. And somebody that I actually look, when I'm getting ready to do an episode, I'll sometimes go back over my notes for that episode, and I loved it. And you know, when I saw the whole cancer research videos with Dr. Becker and Rodney Habib, he was supposed to be on it and decided last minute to pull out. And I would have loved to have seen him on that special. So then we go into our next set. Episode 191 and 192 are interesting in itself. They were episodes that honestly almost didn't make it. Almost something I wasn't going to do. And again, going back to Jay and Adrian, if it wasn't for Jay, I probably would never have released episode 191, which was the Pet Food Institute, PFI. Typically, the rule of thumb is that I only do episodes of people that I want to talk to, people that I'm interested in, people that are doing amazing things. I don't think that PFI is doing amazing things. I don't like what they're doing. I think they're a lobbyist group, and I clearly, you know, am not happy when I'm doing that episode, and it's not exactly what I want to do when it comes to this podcast. I'm not looking for shock value. I'm not looking for sound bites. But it did happen, and, you know, when they're clearly saying, don't read the ingredients on the bag, just trust it.
I was shocked.
Yeah, many people were shocked. They did come back. PFI had contacted Kimberly and wanted to actually have a conversation with her about what they meant. They wanted to set the record straight. What I loved about Kimberly, she says, don't talk to me, why don't you contact him? You were on his show, you talked to him about it. They never did. And I'm not surprised.
Yeah, when anybody tells you don't look at the ingredients, is just flat out telling you, I'm going to give you a crap pie, but you're going to like it.
I see where that reference came from.
You are going to eat this pie and think it's chocolate, and you're going to enjoy it.
Okay.
That's exactly what that was, and I could not believe the goal of them, and then wanting to come back and say, oh no, that's not what I mean.
But not to us.
Yeah, not to us. They're too chicken to come back to us. They wanted to go to somebody else.
Right.
But the whole matter of not taking a look at the ingredients is just ridiculous.
It was awful. And, you know, again, I wasn't really sure if I was going to do it. At that time, I had AFCO, PFI, and FDA on my list of people I wanted to talk to, because I wanted to go through the regulatory. I wanted this to be, let's find out what the regulatory boards, these people who are controlling dry kibble, let's talk to them. Let's get them in front here, front and center. PFI had been very upfront, and they had Q&A at this year's or last year's Super Zoo. talking with everybody. So, you know, it's like, okay, fine. So 192, was AFCO. And we were able to talk to somebody that Kristen Green, who, you know, the process is the process. I find AFCO to be no better than the FDA. I think that these guys they're polluting the system. Here you're trademarking terms, you're pretty much patrolling it in a very negative way. And, you know, at the end of the day, they came off just like PFI did. They showed their true colors, and it was just very upsetting in my part. I was hoping at some point, you know, it was going to be like the Tooth Fairy. You put it under the pillow and something appears the next morning, a positive side. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And then when it came down to the FDA, they declined multiple times, did through different channels. I found that was very chicken for a government-based organization to not be willing to say, okay, well, you know what, you're a taxpayer, you have the right to ask us. Nope, we're going to cowardly run away. Felt that was very bad. But we'll give you a statement. I'm not going to read your stupid statement. I don't read statements, I want to ask questions. So that really was upsetting. 193 and 198 episodes was Dr. Lori Koger, who Dr. Koger became an instant classic, an instant friend right off the bat. And somebody that I talked to multiple times during the week. And I still can't call her Lori. I just cannot do it. She's still the good doctor to me. One day I hope to get to that point. But I don't know. I look at what she does, and we have these really interesting conversations back and forth. And I enjoy it, and I cherish the fact that I was not only able to have somebody that was amazing on the podcast, but I made a friend that, honestly, I can honestly say if this ended today and I wasn't going to do the podcast anymore, that would be enough right in itself. Now, 194, I got to give Sarah the credit for this one, because you were the one who actually saw it, and you were the one who said, you really should talk to him. This became another one of those instant friends that I completely look to, and I talk to as well quite a lot, and that is Troy from Fetching Foods, a company that I've never stopped talking about. I've said it so many times on the podcast or in different posts. I was on Facebook and I was looking up groups that had to do with raw feeding. So, you know, other people's thoughts and what they do and how they do it, whatnot. And I stumbled across this one page, which actually now I don't think exists, or they banned me. I don't think they exist. Yeah, I don't think they exist anymore. I don't know what happened. It had a strong following. A bunch of people were asking questions. It was amazing. And then, poof, it disappeared. Yeah, actually, I do know. Troy knew the actual admin. And okay. he had said, you know, she's really knowledgeable. You should have her on. She's got a great following. But some things were going on, and I think that just the overwhelming negative that can come with all of this just overdid it, and it's just like, I'm done, I'm out, and shut it down. Okay, that makes a lot more sense, because when I was on there, I saw the logo of somebody, and I always forget names, so I don't know who the name was itself, but I brought up the picture, and it said Fetching Foods. And so I went ahead and went online, and I looked up their website, looked at a bunch of different things, and then I mentioned it to you, which you're welcome. Just saying. Thank you. And and you guys went from there. I was super impressed with everything that had to do with Fetching Foods. Their packaging, the labels, the being able to distinguish when the expiration date was or what the ship date was, their beef jerky that they sent us for her. The hands-on, the going to do all of the shopping in a fresh environment. Mm-hmm. The fact that obviously it's not cheap. It's not. And I believe they are fairly priced. Yeah. Especially for the quality that you're getting. I think underpriced. I think it could be a lot more. I think he really could, because it's hands-on so many different areas. From purchase to making to packaging
But just like with grooming, you start your services off lower and you work your way up as you build up your following. I mean, that happened with us. We started out being, the less priced in the area until we got better and better and better, and now we're going to be
I think we're still competitive.
We're going to be more competitive, or if not higher. So eventually, I'm sure that they should raise their prices. But anyhow,
off topic.
But I mean, the dog water.
Yeah.
Katana went nuts over. I mean, just nuts. I got her to eat her egg because of that. I put the egg with some of the dog water, and it's bone broth. But I put the egg in there, and Katana ate it right up. I'm like, oh, thank you. Yeah,
and ever since then, she's fine with the egg.
Now she's fine with the egg. She'll eat the egg right up.
Yeah, we would have to actually put it in a pureed version.
Yeah, I had to mix it up with the ground beef.
Yep.
Just for her to eat it. It was awful. I had to get my hands all slimy. It was gross. Anyhow.
But I mean, great episode that turned into being what it is.
When you unpackage it and you got this package of this container that's supposed to be for one meal, and it looks pretty.
Yeah.
I honest to goodness, it's pretty.
And human grade.
So if you wanted to throw it on the meat thing or the grill, I guess you could. But it didn't stink. It didn't smell like a rotting animal. That was my hang up. This stuff is going to stink. And I am very much a sissy when it comes to something that stinks. I guess that's the reason why it makes it such a good groomer, is that I can smell the smallest, the funkiest odor on a dog, rewash. Yeah. But it didn't smell funky. It didn't smell bad. It was fresh. You can smell the herbs in it. The natural herbs that go into it to help their stomach.
It was definitely high quality.
Right. And I went impressed. And guess how easy it was? I took the lid off. I plopped it in the bowl. I set it down. That's what our biggest thing to say. So easy.
Is, okay, you know what, folks? If you have a lot of problems with the idea of going shopping, or you have issues with the idea of I can't prepare it, or I'm too busy, this is why I'm always pushing it.
Or I can't balance the meal.
Exactly. The balancing is a real challenge.
And you don't want to weigh everything out. Holy cow.
It was amazing. Now, 196 was, I would say, very interesting because I've never had an attorney on the podcast. And, it's one thing to have a veterinarian on and have to learn the medical jargon, but the legal can be such a different side to it. And, not really too knowledgeable when it comes to law. I've seen a couple law shows, and that's as far as it probably goes for mine. But Jessica Slater was on the podcast. She's representing the unfortunate families who had lost their furry loved ones through either Avengers or Petland. And we really went down that whole thing. And, I was kind of publicly griping a little bit about the Nancy Grace episode that she was on with Dr. Becker, Rodney Habib, Susan Thixton, and I felt like if you wanted to do that, it was a great episode that they could have done if you would have just leveled the playing field and let only a couple of them talk and then work it into a system. I think that Jessica is one of the more super attorneys out there, and when I say super attorney, I mean she's above what you would expect a lawyer to be. She's above and beyond that. Her knowledge is just unbelievable. She blew my mind. And the fact is that it wasn't just the fact that she was brilliant, the fact that she was sweet. I'm thinking to myself, I would never have imagined it. I mean, honestly, when I started the whole process of this, when I was like, yeah, I've talked to different lawyers over the times, luckily never for my own need, knock on wood, but I've always wondered, is it going to be somebody that's going to be, kind of tough and rough and gruff? And she was none of those. I was shocked. I was just like, wow, that really got me. So I was, and again, it would never have happened if it wasn't for Dr. Koger. She was the one who's like, you need to talk to her, which has become one of the more interesting turn of events that have happened towards the latter of the year, is that this whole process of being able to talk to somebody and then they recommend somebody is shocking. And they're like, hey, you got to talk to this person. Okay, I will talk to anybody you want. I actually skipped somebody really quick. I'll go back to that one because I scrolled over it accidentally. It was actually 195. We were just talking about 196, but 195 was Pet Perennials. And that became a real interesting conversation to have. And that was, they had posted on our Facebook page about their product. And if you post on there, I am right away going to respond. Whether you send me a message or you post a comment, I'm right there to always respond back because I want to have that interaction with people. And she had mentioned, Pet Perennials, and I thought to myself, you know what? It's the inevitable. We need to always be prepared for the unfortunate time that our pups or cats or guinea pigs or whatever will pass on and cross that rainbow bridge. And since we don't have that barrier where we can't have that conversation, why not? So that's where the whole idea came in. Well, you know what? You should be on. And it was kind of funny because we did a pre-interview and we talked a little bit, and it's one of those conversations that honestly, who wants to have it? Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to think about it. But at the end of the day, are you going to find out that your friend, your neighbor, your loved one, they lost their pet? And then what do? Go to Hallmark, buy a card? Sorry. It just made it make more sense to actually go down that way. And she was an absolute sweetheart, and it was amazing to be able to talk to her. It's always a hard conversation to have, but you know what, it was worth it because, at least there's an option out there. Getting down to our last two of 2017, shocking that it is. The next one was Billy Hookman, which Kimberly was the one who said, you need to talk to Billy, he is brilliant. I didn't realize how connected he was in the whole environment of this industry. Billy is with Answers Pet Food, which is a very transparent company. Absolute amazing products out there. But what really set the whole thing for me was how much he knows and how interesting he could really be. I mean, here's this guy, I didn't know what to expect again. Like most of the people that come on, I don't know what to expect. And we completely go off topic. We're talking about Marvel movies, we're talking about DC, and then of course one of our rescue cats is outside catching a mouse, and I completely go off the rails talking about, ooh, let's color commentate the cat actually going for this mouse. I do apologize for that, but that's usually what happens to me. I lose my whole mind when I see shiny red ball. But that was an amazing conversation, and just could not believe how much he was interesting and how great that was. And in our last episode of 2017, which was absolutely the sweetest, and again, another one of those interviews that I would never have had if it wasn't for Dr. Koger, was with Debbie Taraka, who was the Wizard of Paws. I always want to say Wizard of Oz because it's just a common word in love, but Wizard of Paws. And it was funny because when I started doing my research, I was really worried about sitting down with her because she's so accomplished, so knowledgeable, and again, didn't know what to expect. I didn't have a clue. And I guess, with the ones when you don't have a clue, when you walk into these interviews, you don't know what to expect. And then you walk away from it going, wow, I absolutely loved this conversation. And it became one of those immediate, we're still going to talk, and continuously have talked since then through Messenger or through text. And absolutely appreciate everything about her. I didn't expect, again, another person I thought, well, probably will be very straight to the point, have everything down, and yet complete doll the whole time, sweetheart, and I just appreciated every moment of it. That's the 2017 lineup, and it was a great lineup for us.
It was a busy one.
It was, and you know what? 2018 seems to be a lot more.
It's good.
It's going to be a lot busier. I hope so. But, you know, if it wasn't for the people that were... There was a lot of people part of 2017 that kept me going straight. You kept me going on this. Claire, of course, kept me going on it. There were times that I said, you know what, this was the end of the road at 200. I was going to stop. And we've had that discussion, you and I, and, you know, this is a hard thing to do.
And during the year, it just got so busy for me opening up the shop that there was just no way I was going to be able to spend an hour or so time to record.
Right. I mean, this is hard. It's hard to do this.
Well, it's not just that, but even your interviews, having to listen to the interview and then having to do the podcast, it was just really hard. This way, I can focus on making sure our books are straight, making sure we still have people coming in, and dealing with that. It's very rewarding to have such things. I'm excited that you have the podcast that you're passionate with, and I have the salon that I'm passionate about. I think 2018 is going to be a pretty awesome year.
I think
just
so.
think of how much more we're going to learn.
Yeah, I mean, 2017 brought a lot of knowledge. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this whole thing plays out. You know, we're not the type of people who do New Year's resolutions, but we do look forward to all of the positives that are going to, you know, hopefully come our way. And
did you ever mention about during this whole year how learning about the raw food, learning about the feeding of such thing, what it did to Katana?
Yeah, we've talked about it in multiple different ways and with different people.
Now Katana, she's got more energy. She looks amazing.
Yeah.
She has always been underweight the entire time we've had her. Nothing we could do could get her to gain weight. There wasn't a bag of food out there was helping her. She would chew herself to death. I mean, it was awful. And now she is thick. She's beautiful. She chases the poor cats.
Well, chases them in a fun way. She's not like being mean, but they do actually like to be chased.
Yeah,
especially Spencer
they'll
and
come up
Oliver.
and tag her,
Yes.
and then just go. But it's amazing to see her during feeding time.
Yeah.
Trying to get the food together because, you know, Sarah prep never. So we're making all the food right now, and she's just freaking out, making her noises, and the cats are trying to steal her food, and it's making her worried because she's not going to have any food because if the cats steal it, she won't have any. But all in all, I think 2017 was an eye-opener to helping our pets be healthier.
Well, it's helping our pets and helping others. We've helped a lot.
If people would take our word for it and start, even if they don't want to take our word for it, but take our advice and do more research themselves, they too will have a healthier pet. Mm-hmm. They just have to take that first step to, okay, there is such thing as raw feeding. Okay, now let's go further.
Right.
What's the next step after that? But who knows what 2018 is going to hold.
Well, we're going to find out here very soon. Well, by that sound, I guess Claire has turned on the applause sign, which we never actually get to say anymore because our guests are always on. And it's kind of fun to have you back on the podcast. We'll have you back on next year.
Whoop, whoop.
So, you know, your once-a-year tradition is now been accomplished.
Now, all because I do the episode once a year does not mean we don't talk about it every day.
Every day, yes.
Every hour.
Every hour, every day.
On the hour. Just so everybody knows, I'm not that. Oh well, she's not very supportive of her husband.
This is something that actually is talked about a lot. Yeah. A lot of conversation about
but just
this.
so everybody knows.
Well, I'm Chris Green. Have a pet-tastic week.
And I'm Sarah Green, making sure everybody realizes
life is so short.
Yeah, there you go.
Play with your pets.
Life is short. Play with your pet.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, gotta go in my bedtime. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, leave a like on iTunes or YouTube, or leave a comment.